Welcome to PodCapers, the official podcast of a place to hang your cape. And this week, they're not out to destroy the world, they're out to bring us great comics, which makes a difference from other mad robots I know. Cue the music! Hello there, Capers, and as I said, welcome to PodCapers, the official podcast for a place to hang your cape. My name is Scott James Merridew, and this is the show where we talk about various geek and nerd-related topics, and I'm joined each week by a very special different guest. This week, once again, we got two different special guests on the show. Give it up, Capers, for Matt Hardy and Jordan Thomas. How are you guys?
Yeah, good, Scott. Thank you very much for having us on.
Not at all. It's an absolute delight to have you both on.
Cool. No. Well, I didn't want to jump over the top of you. No, glad to be here, Scott. Thanks for inviting us.
This is the show where we jump on top of each other. This is a show for tangents and rants and all sorts. So just so the Capers know, because sometimes with podcasts we need to differentiate who the voices are. They know who I am. Who's Jordan?
I am Jordan here.
Who's Matt?
Right now.
This is Matt.
Yeah, so we've established who people are. Well, we established names, that is to say. But the Capers might not know who you guys are, in which case they are fools! The lot of them! So, Matt, why don't you tell us who you are, Jordan, tell us who you are, and what it is you guys do.
I'm Matt Hardy. I'm the founder and I run Mad Robot Comics. We publish the Cadavers line of books. We published Madhouse line of books. We've had 3 graphic novels, and we have an anthology and a bunch of new books, including Jordan's book, coming out next year.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that a little later on. Jordan, though, who are you? What do you do? What's your reason for being in the grand cosmic scale?
I'm Jordan Thomas, and I've been writing professionally in different areas for around 10 years now, but the last couple of years, particularly working with Matt, I've got involved a lot more in comics, and I helped edit Matt on a lot of the books for Mad Robot Comics in the early days, get to see a lot of the early art. And now I'm also working on my own projects, including one called Frank at Home on the Farm, which will be releasing in the next couple of months.
Ooh, I'm all a quiver with excitement. But before we talk about any of the stuff that you've actually done, we have to talk about Mad Robot, what it is, where did it come from, what does it do, is it out to take over the world? I'm actually kind of worried about that.
Yeah, completely. We intend to subjugate the population and take over the world.
Oh no! I knew it! I knew the robots would take over, but no one listened to me! Y'all laughed at me! Y'all laughed at me!
It would make it easier to sell comics if we could take over the world, but no, we're a small comics company. It was founded by myself and Edward Bentley.
Mm-hmm.
And it's over the last 5 years, we've only been around for about 5 years. Over the last 5 years, we've taken on board more writers, working with more artists.
Hey, Scott.
Hello, sorry, my internet cut out.
Oh, no.
I've just been
having trouble.
just been scrambling for the last several minutes to try and fix it, sorry. Is Matt still with us?
Matt was certainly still online. Oh, yeah, here he is. Oh, there he is as well.
Hello.
Exciting.
Search my face for a second.
Absolutely.
That quick as possible. What happened, Scott?
My internet cut out.
Okay.
So I had to fix it. So I do apologise about that. Shouldn't happen again.
Not a problem.
Cool. No worries. I'm glad you're okay, that we were worried that maybe something worse had happened. And
like an asteroid just suddenly hit Edinburgh.
Yeah, it'd be a bit of a sad way for our first podcast interview to go. It's like, oh no, it's kind of killed over halfway through.
Oh God. So, where did we leave off? What were we last talking about?
You were asking us who we were.
Yeah, I was asking you.
Can you edit it in from where we were?
This is all edited, so no one will ever know that there was ever an issue. Movie magic!
I think it was something to do with robots taking over the world around the time. That's why I was worried, because you were really into the robots taking over the world. You were a bit worried, or maybe you pushed yourself too far.
They found me out. Good God. So what exactly is Mad Robot Comics?
So we are a small self-publishing independent small press line. It's founded by myself and Edward Bentley. Initially, it was just the two of us making the Madhouse comic.
Mm-hmm.
It's grown to encompass. Our anthology we've just done had 18 different comic creators on it.
Oh wow!
Yeah, there's a few of us now. So I've got a panel of writers, one of which obviously is Jordan, who's here. And we have various artists who we like to use.
Mm-hmm. And you've got a guy. So was that?
It sounded a little bit creepy at the end. The artists that we like to use.
Kids in there.
I have to keep that a bit under wraps, I think.
There are artists we need for services.
Okay, yeah, you just lost me most of my artists.
No, I mean, for the work I've seen of you, guys' stuff is anything to go on. You've got some very good artists on you. Now, you've done several comics, as you said. I've only had a chance to read one of them, and that is Murder Most Mundane, which I really enjoyed.
Good, glad to hear it.
It was really good. Here's the thing. I like stories that I think are going in one direction, and then they just pull the rug out from underneath me and say, no, well, you thought you knew what was going on? You thought you knew? You fool! You utter fool! This is what's going on, and it's brilliant, and you knew nothing about it! And that's exactly what you did.
Well, it's a murder mystery, so yeah, the idea of a murder mystery is you're not supposed to know what is going on until you get to the end. Ash Deadman, the co-writer on the book, we're really pleased to hear that, yeah, we caught you napping, so to speak.
Because I'll be honest, at first I thought like, ooh, this is looking very Hot Fuzz-ish, with this sort of the sleepy small town village setting and everything, and it couldn't be more different.
Never heard of Hot Fuzz. What's this Hot Fuzz you talk about?
Yeah, that small little indie film by some guy, I don't know, Sean Pegg, I've never heard of him.
Yeah, we're quite aware that there are similarities to Hot Fuzz, but Hot Fuzz is a pastiche of the action movie genre. Mm-hmm. Murder Most Mundane is more of a homage to like Inspector Morse and Midsummer Murders and those type of shows and that type of genre. So hopefully we are different enough from Hot Fuzz.
I guess you both they walk along the same path for a bit, and then there's a pretty big right turn on Murder Most Mundane's part.
Yeah, I think that sums it up quite well.
Yeah, I can't see that happening in a Miss Marple story, to be perfectly honest. Although if it did, I might actually, read a Miss Marple story.
That would be a hell of an episode. Imagine that. Murder, She Wrote or something. Then the lights appear.
I mean, it is really good, and it's something I would recommend to anyone who likes the mystery thing or anything. That anyone. Also, I got a sense of it's very sort of that old sort of Hammer horror sort of Wicker Man sort of style to it, with that small enclosed space where something slightly strange, slightly eldritch, slightly eerie is going on, and it's just one lone person trying to untangle this web of deceit and lies and weirdness and superstition and bells, church bells, dear God.
Yeah, when I promoted it on Kickstarter, we mentioned the Wicker Man. We mentioned Hot Fuzz and we mentioned the Wicker Man because, I mean, they are both major influences on the work. Did you like the art in the book?
I did really like the art. I at first I was like, ooh, what's this sort of art? This is going for a slightly more naturalistic thing. And then as I got on for it, I realised it's the perfect sort of art for this sort of story. Because you know what? It's great about the art in Murder Most Mundane. It's because it's great when things are being very calm and quiet and still and eerie. And it's great when there's action scenes and fast-paced moments. In terms of pace and how you read it, it has the perfect sort of rhythm and the perfect sort of tempo as and when each scene needs it. Lots of art styles, they're very good at the still stuff but not so good at the action stuff and vice versa. This is good in every single scene. Every single character's emotion is encapsulated perfectly on their face. You're never confused about who's who, what's what, what's happening, where someone's going in terms of movement and the characters. And honestly, it's one of those things where it's a 9 out of 10, or possibly even a 10 out of 10 in terms of execution about conveying every single element of the story beat. It just works perfectly. It's so... Even in, like, big, like, Marvel and DC comics, sometimes you get a bit confused about, like, things like proportions and where people are looking and how people are looking and stuff, and just little things that are distracting. There was nothing distracting in this book in terms of the art. It was everything just works. I love it when I love it when an art style comes together.
That's Clark. Though. Clark he's a genius. We are exceptionally lucky to have him. His use of perspective and his page layouts are absolutely amazing. It's one of those cases where you send a script off and you have an idea in your mind, and what Clark sends back is so much better. This is probably a good time to point out that Clark's the artist on Jordan's new book.
Oh, yeah, well, okay, if you say so. Okay, so, Jordan, tell us about this new stuff you're doing then.
Yeah, so obviously I saw a lot of Mundane whilst it was being produced. Matt was sharing a lot of the work as it went through, and I saw, like, what you were talking about, Scott. Like, Clark can do, like, amazing stuff that really stands out, but also he tells the story. So I think, like, that can be a problem with some artists, is where you don't, they kind of, that you want to do the pin-up type images, but you need people who are going to tell the story as well. And so the story that I have is set on a farm just after World War One, where a guy returns from the war and finds that his whole family's missing on this farm. So we have a kind of traditional English village farm, but in the 1920s. So you can see where Clark's art style would work really well for that. And then also, it becomes a mystery of this guy trying to find where have his family gone, why does no one in the village remember anything about them or really know about the farm. Like, this farm's almost become a kind of black hole in the memory of this whole village.
Oh dear, because that's what I like about these sort of stories. I love stories that really dive into the psychology of a location. I really like talking about the I don't know, the collective consciousness of a particular geographic location, because we don't think of locations as having a consciousness, a sort of psychology to them, because we think of that as people or even groups of people. But places have different feels to them, I think.
Oh, I'm a massive Stephen King fan. And if you read a lot of Stephen King's work, then obviously The Shining's a famous one, where you've got this hotel that's literally kind of coming alive around people. But even in stuff like It, where you've got Derry, and Derry's got this kind of evilness to it, which the clown is like a representation of, and it's almost like everyone in the town gets affected by this kind of evilness that's like in the ground there. And there's something that's very scary about the idea of, which I guess, not wanting to be too spoilery for Murder Most Mundane, but that's something that tapped into as well, where there's something that's kind of been somewhere for a long time that you don't totally understand, but that takes a kind of hold of the people that live there.
Oh yes, Rutherford, they float, and you'll float with them. Wah? I'm sorry, I had to do that. You mentioned It, I have to try and do Tim Curry? Yeah, Tim Curry. Why did I call him Tom Curry? What's wrong with me? He's amazing, and I called him Tom. What the fuck is wrong with me? I'm getting my horror things confused. Oh dear. So that sounds really interesting. I particularly like it when we talk about that sort of stuff in regards to small places. When we get to talk about, like, the psychology of cities and stuff, that's when it gets a bit weird for me. That's when we delve into, like, Frank Miller's Spirit movie weird. It's like, okay, maybe less fetishizing the buildings, please. But with small villages, like Murder Most Mundane and Hot Fuzz, and indeed stuff like Midsummer Murders and stuff like that, it's weird because it's such an enclosed, encapsulated, and sometimes even isolated place. Because, I've lived in lots of places throughout my life, but my parents now live in a little village in Oxfordshire, and it's got thatched cottages and little whispering brooks and stuff like that, and trees and fields, and it's just ghastly.
Yeah, well, Clark actually lives in Oxfordshire, and so he's been doing quite a lot of wandering around the countryside, taking photos, and probably getting a bit of a weird reputation for himself of taking photos of animals out in fields and stuff. But yeah, if they check out Frank at Home on the Farm, they might see some of the locations they recognise in there.
Oh, look, a lovely field. Click. Oh, look, a cow grazing in a meadow. Click. Oh, look, a billboard about fighting the fox hunting ban. Click. Yeah, I lived in Oxfordshire a while. Honestly, I'm not a fan.
Well, you've got Ash as well. Grew up in a small village in that area. I grew up in a small village, as did Clark. So we've all taken our experiences of small village life and incorporated it into Murder Most Mundane.
So Mad Robot Comics is kind of like some group therapy session to get over our weird upbringings in little villages in England.
Well, Murder Most Mundane definitely was, yes.
Well, I think it works as well because in Murder Most Mundane, the village for that, was it called Fadfield? It was because, no, I remember it starts with Fad.
Fadfield, yeah.
Yeah. It feels they say the name of the place, but I don't remember if they actually said where in England it is. So it could be anywhere in England. It could be in the north, it could be the south. It just says, like there's a police station, there's a pub, and there's a village shop, and that's about it.
It's an atypical English village. You can have it be anywhere you want to. That way, anyone reading the book can hopefully associate with it. Everyone reading the book hopefully knows somewhere like Fadfield.
I was talking about this the other episode with Ben Aronovich about like murder in small places. I can't believe we're talking about it again. It's a weird theme to go from episode to episode. But I talked about in that episode about how in a village in Oxfordshire, Burford, where I went to school, there was a murder, old lady, head cut off, couldn't find the head, right next to the school, caused a bit of kerfuffle. And we don't think of those things happening there, but they do. They're much more. The British countryside has sort of established this image of being quiet and peaceful and idyllic. In fact, Burford, I think, was featured in Forbes magazine at one point about being like the top 10 most idyllic places in Europe to visit, and there was a fucking murder there. A full-on decapitation. So, like, it's a facade, people. Wake up!
All these sweet little places all have evil undertones. Always something going on behind those twitchy curtains.
And they're just so old as well, like walking around near where I live in a little village called Rustington, down the south coast, quite close to Brighton. There's like the graveyard there at the church, like the gravestones are so old that you can't even read the names or anything on them anymore. They're hundreds and hundreds of years old. So anywhere that's been around for so long, unlike a lot of the cities you kind of go to with buildings being knocked down and rebuilt, then there's going to be a fair bit of history attached to them all.
Yeah, and also, the thing is, you get that in cities as well, but it's a different kind of history. It's all these little hamlets. They could say, oh, there's history going back to, like William the Conqueror and the Domesday Book and stuff like that. But it's just a case of people living in the village. Not really much goes on. In Edinburgh, and I know this because I used to be a tour guide, there's a lot of history, but almost all of it is utter stuff of nightmares. It's just like people being called witches, and people getting murdered, and people being drowned in bogs of pure filth, and people getting murdered, and people getting executed, and all sorts of filth and decay and rotting ghosts and awfulness rising up. And it's just, maybe that's just Edinburgh, I don't know. But,
sounds perfect for a graphic novel, if you ask me. Sounds perfect for a story.
Yeah,
all the best stories are nasty stuff.
Absolutely, I think it works because conflict, obviously, and that's what I like about the title of Murder Most Mundane. It's sort of misleading because you think, oh yeah, it's going to be about a murder, but how could murder be mundane? And when you go into it in the story, I won't give it away. It's such an interesting use of that title, its use of that premise. It's one of those premises that I find to be utterly genius and find it utterly just completely works. And it's one of those things I wish more, I love inventive premises. I love convention as well. I like seeing familiar tropes and stuff like that. I'm a big fan of genre, but I also like when people take this unique idea that's never really been done before. And I think Murder Most Mundane, as far as I'm aware, maybe someone will prove me wrong, hasn't been done before. And that's a massive accomplishment in this day and age.
Thank you very much. I'll pass it on to the co-writer, Ash Devman. We spent a lot of time trying to incorporate new ideas into the book. And I think we can talk a little bit about why we call it Murder Most Mundane. I mean, there's two halves of it. We can't talk about the second half without spoiling it. But the first half is because everyone in the village seems to regard murder as mundane. A murder happens, they will just carry on baking their cakes, knitting their scarves, going about their daily business, not concerned. And obviously, there's a reason for that. That's the second half that we can't talk about without spoiling it. Yeah, that's why we decided to go with Murder Most Mundane.
Yeah, and it completely works in that sort of thing. I just love it because it's kind of funny when we see people like, oh, no, the vicar got decapitated brutally. Oh dear, pass the knitting patterns.
Pass the biscuits.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of funny, but the more it happens, the scarier it becomes. It really because there's the main character, DCI Rutherford, and he's come from outside the village, so his reaction to this is very much our reaction. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? People are dying left, right, and centre, and you're talking about biscuits and cake. What's wrong with you people? And the more it sort of spirals into this utter nightmare scenario where it feels like you, the reader, and the main character are the only sane people in this entire story, and no one seems to get it. And it's a very, very isolating, a very frightening thing to comprehend, that you're the one sane person in a room full of insane people, and they see the world in one way and you don't, and it's very disconcerting, and it's the perfect kind of subtle tension. And
when Netflix come and pick us up for Murder Most Mundane, and get you to do the movie quote, okay? That was perfect, what you just said there.
I think you need to get Scott on board for publicity, to be honest, Matt. I think probably we could get him behind the stand at the, not in court, in one of the comic conventions, and I think he could probably do some good work.
Feel free to quote me on that, because it's one of those things where I think the best kind of stories are one where you start reading it and you just can't stop, and I couldn't stop. I was just like page after page, like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And what's great about it is we can't talk about all of it, but the chapters, and there are chapters in the book, and they're broken up by sort of like the murder board, if you will, of all the suspects, all the people that are involved in this murder investigation that Rutherford is doing, and more and more lines being drawn by people to become this massive tangled web of people that just makes no sense. And it's almost like a Lovecraftian descent into madness. We thought we knew what was going on, and then things are just slowly slipping into a never-ending whirlpool of confusion and madness. It's like, it's so bizarre. It's like he's gone into Wonderland. He doesn't know the way out. And I love stories like that. I tell you what, I love stories like that where there's an actual resolution and we do figure out what's going on. I hate stories where we never figure out what's going on and it's just weirdness for the sake of being weird. That, I think, is shit and lazy writing. Thankfully, that's not this story.
You're not a big fan of latter-day David Lynch stuff, then?
No, I mean, I respect David Lynch, I do, but it's really not my sort of thing. Oh, what's the fucking guy who did the Tree of Life and
yeah, I can't remember his name, but yeah, I know who you mean.
Thin Red Line, all that sort of stuff, where it's just like stuff happens, shit happens, no rhyme or reason. And Days of Heaven, right? That's the guy who did Days of Heaven, a story about Richard Gere and some other people like living and working in like the 1930s Great Depression. And there's interesting stuff going on, interesting characters. But you know what the movie is about? Do you know what the movie's about? It's about panic shots at cornfields.
Terrence Malick?
Terrence Malick, that's it! That's the bastard!
He did Badlands as well, right?
I haven't seen that. I've seen...
That's actually probably the best one. I think you've put yourself through all the ones that are really long and don't have much story. And then Badlands is basically what, True Romance? You know, the Quentin Tarantino written movie? Yeah, he kind of steals the soundtrack from that film because it's about a guy and a girl on the run against the law kind of thing.
So George comes from a movie script writing background. Can you tell?
Well, yeah, no, I did do that. Sorry.
He knows his stuff.
I'm easily led off down those kind of rabbit holes.
Hey, this is a show where we go off on rabbit holes. That's the norm on this show. Wait, so you come from a movie script writing background then?
Yeah, that's what I kind of started with. That's what I studied at university, and then that's kind of where I was working. Actually, the comic that I'm working on at the moment, that was originally something that I thought of as a movie idea, but as I got more and more into the comics, I kind of saw the possibilities of what you can do, not needing millions and millions of pounds. You can tell just as good a story with an amazing artist as needing to get a team of hundreds and hundreds of people together.
Someone tell James Cameron that, for the love of God. I was interested they brought it up because I'm from that similar background. I studied script writing for my undergrad, for my masters, and I haven't got much use out of it yet. I'm over it. But I like it when people bring these sort of skill sets into other things, other mediums, and well, I like it when they do it and it works. I should point that out because plenty of people say, "I know what I can do. I can bring like music into comics and it doesn't work," or I like it when I can bring graphic novels into TV shows, or I can like it when I can bring choose your own adventure stories into TV shows. I think you all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly. You know what you're talking about. I've got to say, I don't think all movie scripts are adapted into comic format. I see a lot of people out there with a movie script saying, "Oh, my movie script's amazing. Because it's a great movie script, it'll make an amazing comic."
Like Terrence Malick movie scripts, for example.
Yeah, the transition is not always there. Frank on the Farm, the book we have got coming out, I think works pretty well in that context. We've chopped it up into 4 parts we're going with, aren't we, Jordan?
Yeah.
4 parts, and it almost chopped itself up. It almost wrote itself into the 4 issues. So it doesn't look like we've jammed a movie script into the comic format. At least
I think you have to be willing to rewrite it all, is the thing. You can't just try and copy and paste from your final draft or whatever into a comic script format. You have to take the story, and then it's almost like you're adapting your own work, I guess. Like if you want to just try and recreate it, it's not going to work in the same way. You have to actually rewrite it as a comic book.
But you get a lot of script writers who are so precious about their scripts, so convinced that they should have been made to a movie, that they won't want to change it at all. They won't want to adapt it for the comic format. They just want a comic version of their script, and you cannot do that.
Actually, you can do that, and here's how you do it. What you do is you get a piece of blank A4, you draw out the panels yourself, you draw in the art yourself, you do the word bubbles and all the script and stuff yourself, you staple it together, and boom, you've got a comic that you made yourself for no money. That's your own personal vanity project. That's what you do.
Comic, yes, great. Stickman the comic with no backgrounds. A polar bear fighting a white wolf in the snow.
Exactly. Yeah, because like if you really wanted that much, just like do it yourself with whatever you've got, but don't involve other people and don't get money into it, because here's the thing, that when you do that means you're making a story for yourself, which is fine, but that makes it less likely that other people are going to enjoy it. And like I think there should be at least some small degree of you thinking, okay, I like this, but are other people going to like it? You do need to think about your audience.
Yeah, totally agree.
Well, it's like you said, you really enjoyed the pace of Murder Most Mundane, and that's such an important thing. With like a comic page is such a different thing to a piece of film or a TV series or something. You experience it in a different way, and you have to get that correct kind of pacing in there, which you liked, obviously, in Murder Most Mundane, which is really good. And if that happens, then you can really draw someone into the story. Whereas if you don't think about it in terms of the actual page format, then you're just going to lose people.
Absolutely. I think that becomes from not just the pacing, but just from a more general sense, a sense of authenticity. Nothing I read in Murder Most Mundane felt fake. It all felt very, very real. It felt like it was coming from a place of actual knowledge, which is kind of creepy when you consider like all the like the murder stuff that comes into it. Like, I mean, there's like,
had to murder a lot of people to get the background for that book. Unfortunately, yeah, there was a lot of blood and a lot of decapitations.
It starts off with like someone getting hung.
That's all that matters. That's worth the death, isn't it?
Yeah, I say so for research. You know, this is all for. You know why I'm murdering? You know why I'm murdering you? For a comic. Stab.
For a book.
Or a book, exactly, yeah. So, I mean, just that sort of mentality, that sort of putting the authenticity carry on into a lot of the other books?
I think if you liked Murder Most Mundane,
Mm-hmm.
if you like the mystery, you like the pacing, then Frank, which is by the same artist, I think will probably appeal to you. The rest of our line of books, yeah, we do go for comedy horror, so really dark subjects if we can. But
Well, you called one of your books Cadavers. I think we got that.
yeah, I mean, Cadavers is a little bit more light-hearted than Murder Most Mundane, and it's a lot less realistic than Murder Most Mundane. Although all our books do take place in the same universe, we link. If you're really, really cleverly, if you really know what you're looking for, we do weave links between all the books, set them all in the same universe. But Cadavers is a very, very different book to Murder Most Mundane. So it's about monsters for a start. Monsters, immigration, kind of superpowered, supernatural monsters.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very, very different book to Murder Most Mundane. But yeah, it's still at its heart. There's a mystery to be solved. There's questions raised. And I hope, yeah, there's characters that the reader can associate with.
Oh, great. So what are some of the characters we could look forward to see, that we see in Cadavers? Because I haven't had a chance to read that. I'm very interested in it.
So we're 3 issues into Cadavers.
Mm-hmm.
We've just published, we're about to publish the anthology.
Mm-hmm.
And issue 4 comes out next year. There's 5 main characters in Cadavers. There's Anima, Doppelganger, Bogeyman, Poltergeist, and Revenant.
Ooh.
They're all different types of monsters, but they're all immigrants from another dimension who've had to flee their dimension and are basically stuck on our Earth, discriminated against, feared. I mean, they look like monsters. Of course they're feared.
Bloody poltergeist coming over here and stealing our poltergeist's jobs.
Yeah, not far off of that, actually. Yeah, we do draw from real-life events in a lot of the Cadavers books.
I think that makes for the best stories. I mean, it's very easy to do allegory these days, but it provides the reader a connection, like a focal point for getting into these characters' story and their journey, I think.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I mean, I'm the anthology that's literally, I mean, I literally signed off on the last bits of the anthology this morning, literally about to go to the printer. I think they're going to love. Jordan's got 2 stories in it. We've got 5 writers, 17 artists all in the anthology. So I think there's something in it for everyone.
Name all those artists right now. Go!
There's Edward Bentley,
Mm-hmm.
Rory Donald, Clark Bint, Ahmed Rafat. If I've got Ahmed's last name wrong, I apologise, Ahmed. Daniel Main, Arturo Mesa, Jonathan Scott, Dan Erie, Luke Francis, Jordan. Who have I missed?
Clark? Did you say Clark?
Ed Clark.
Okay, is that?
Oh, Theodore. I'm not going to pronounce Theodore's last name. It's Greek and I can't pronounce it. The writers are Charlie Etheridge Nunn, Ash Dedman, Jordan, and Kieran Stevens.
Yay!
I really feel like I've forgotten someone and they're going to string me. Oh, Russell Mark Olsen.
Oh, yeah, that was quite a big one. That's because he finished his way before everybody else, so that's been completed for a year.
And Russell's story is beautiful, drippingly beautiful as well. So yeah, we can't forget Russell. We also coloured one of the other stories in the book as well. So
when you accept your Eisner Award, make sure to have a list of all those names to hand. Write them down, maybe. Get them out quickly. Just take a quick sneak peek down.
That was good practice, wasn't it? Yeah, I didn't think of that, and I should find out how.
Cover took long enough, didn't it? Getting all the names right on the front cover.
We spoke to on the mock-up. We spoke to the names wrong on the front cover. That was my fault. If you really want to lose an artist, spell their name wrong. I tell you that from the start.
I think as long as the work is out there, they'll be fine. Right?
Yeah. I think they'll all be pleased with what we've done with the work. So yeah, hope so.
Good. And there's another work that we haven't had a chance to talk about yet, and that's Last Exit to Brighton. I'm intrigued about what that is.
Okay, so that is another murder mystery.
Yeah, I can see you've got a particular favourite genre.
Well, it's a very different murder mystery. For a start, it's set in the future.
Oh.
In a post-apocalyptic Brighton. It's easy for me to say.
So Brighton today.
Sometimes.
Do you know something? When I wrote it 4 years ago, you could, it's a Brighton that's gone to hell, so to speak. The barrier between Brighton and heaven and hell is very weak, and you can peer into heaven and hell, and people can make decisions in their lives whether they want to go to heaven or go to hell, and there's advantages to both of them. And it's about two detectives hunting a serial killer through the streets of Brighton. We do the pier, do the beach, we do Kemp Town, we do lots of known Brighton landmarks, and they're trying to work out why this killer is killing certain people and what his end goal is.
Oh, I've got so many questions. First of all, why Brighton specifically? Why set it there?
Because when I wrote the book, the artist Edward Bentley was living in Brighton, and I was working just up the road from Brighton, and I would meet him in a pub called The Office in Brighton, where we would sit down, talk about the script, plot out the pages. So literally, the book was made in Brighton.
Might as well set it in Brighton then. Fitting homage.
Yeah. Plus, it's got some great landmarks, some really recognisable backdrops we could use. So that's main the reason. And Last Exit of Brighton was quite a cool title. So yeah,
I think so. I think that it sticks in your head quite well. It sticks in your mind very well. The next question is this. So I've never heard the idea of, story-wise, of people choosing whether or not to go to heaven or hell, and there being advantages and disadvantages to both. So what sort of things are you talking about that you can tell me?
It's not quite that. Basically, you can see glimpses of heaven, you can see glimpses of hell, you can see what you think awaits you. So the choice becomes, what in your life, which way do you want to go? Do you want to go? Do you want to rule in heaven? Or do you want to go to do you want to rule in hell, sorry? Or do you want to live in servitude in heaven, which is what it looks like it's going to happen. But obviously it's a murder mystery, there's a twist, and things may not be what they seem.
Oh, I'm intrigued now. You got my intrigued glands secreting. Ugh.
I'll send you a copy of the book.
That's it. I think we actually do have a copy already, because we Places to Hang Your Cape have reviewed several of your stuff before. So I think
yes, you have a copy. Yeah, you do indeed.
I just haven't had a chance to have a look at it yet, unfortunately. But I'm definitely going to. Oh god. So it's another murder mystery. What made you want to do another murder mystery? Did you just want to do another one, but in a different way, or?
Well, it precedes Murder Most Mundane. I wrote it before Murder Most Mundane.
Oh, right, see.
And they are very different types of murder. One is two detectives hunting a serial killer, and the other is the more traditional country type Midsummer Murders type book. So even though it sounds like we are backing ourselves into a corner saying we only do murder mysteries, they are completely different stories in every possible way.
And then you did Madhouse in between, right?
Say again?
You did Madhouse in between, which is a very different kind of comic to either of the other two.
Totally. We did a book called Madhouse between Last Exit of Brighton and Murder Most Mundane, and that's about a guy in a mental asylum. So there, we do different stuff.
And here I thought it was going to be about taking, tea and crumpets on the wicked green at Stanton Harcourt. No, I mean, so Madhouse. What's that about then? You said, but what's going on in the Madhouse?
Have fun explaining that one, Matt.
Ah, okay, yeah.
That's not a one line. One line of that one.
Oh god. There's a lot of interference going on. There's a lot of static in the background.
Not my end.
No.
Okay. Madhouse is a chap who wakes up in a mental asylum. He believes that he's the warden of the asylum. He also believes he may be possessed by an evil creature that appears to be giving him superpowers. And each book, we visit a different part of the asylum, which turns out to be a different experimental ward with different experiments on monsters, and we try to work out if the main character is in fact insane or very insane.
Damn it, Vault Tech! You're up to your shenanigans again. That sounds fascinating, dear God. Everything you guys do just sounds fascinating. Did you just like, okay, so we need to come up with some cool, interesting comics. What would Scott want? And just base all your stuff around that.
We wrote everything for you, Scott. Yes, absolutely.
I feel so blessed. I feel so. Thank you, sir. Oh God, that's fascinating. Because I mean, I think we are living in a golden age of indie comics in general. People doing so many different stuff, but usually it's around different twists on well-established genres, like the fantasy scene or even the murder and mystery scene and stuff like that. And it's rare that we find something truly unique in that we've never really seen it before. Like, I've read comics that I think are good, that are very good, but, you know, very similar to stuff I've seen before. Now, with some of your stuff, it may remind me of stuff I've seen before, but it's not similar. It's not the same. It stands out on its own, well, 3 legs, probably. Knowing you guys, I think it might have 2 legs. Oh, wait, no, it's got 3!
Yeah, that's partly me. I do like a twist. I do like a surprise. Do like to take people down a particular path of the story, then totally pull the rug from underneath them.
Yeah, but
I can't remember who it was, but I had someone describe Madhouse as going down the rabbit hole in Alice in Wonderland, then going down another rabbit hole, then going down another rabbit hole. It's that type of story where just when you think you've got a handle on where you are, we pull the rug out from underneath you and take you somewhere else.
oh wow, I really am enjoying Wonderland. Whoop! Okay, now we're in Narnia. Whoop! Now we're on the bridge of the USS Enterprise. Whoop! Now we're in Ipswich.
Yeah, issue 4 is on a spaceship, so you're not too far off the mark there.
Oh God! Of course it is. Of course it's on a spaceship. What else did I expect?
Right from a mental asylum to a spaceship, a natural progression.
Absolutely. Oh God. There's so much more. I have so many questions, but I think like I shouldn't really ask these questions until I've actually just like seen the books and read the books. Dear God. So what are some of the other stuff that you guys have done with Mad Robot?
I think we've covered a lot of it. We've got the probably best to talk about what we've got coming up, I would say, from now onwards. We've got Frank at Home on the Farm.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan's spoken about. We've got Saxon's second-hand books, which is Ash Deadman, the co-writer of Murder Most Mundane. That's his new book, which we are looking to probably Kickstarter in May.
Ooh.
I've got a project with Rob Jones from Marius Comics called Hell in Stalingrad, set during the siege of Stalingrad. Do you know much about your history?
I know that Stalingrad is a place. I know that it was sieged, and I know that the Nazis lost.
I think everyone lost in Stalingrad.
I'm sorry, I don't know much about the Eastern Front in World War II. I'm sorry.
I didn't until Rob Jones asked me to join him on the book. He's got a background in history. He has quite a firm grasp of it. I Googled Stalingrad and I was just dismayed about absolutely everything I read. It's a hideous portion of history.
Wait, so without going into too many spoilers about the story, what did happen at Stalingrad?
Is Stalingrad Enemy at the Gates?
Yes.
Have you seen that classic with Jude Law and Ed Harris being snipers fighting each other?
I've not seen that.
Bodies all over the floor, just piles of bodies with people just kind of driving through them, machine gunning the dead bodies, pretty much.
I'm getting a rather nice mental picture of that now. Yeah, bodies all over the place.
The Germans and the Russians both refused to give up the city. The Russians took to arming civilians. At one point, Hitler turned around and told his... I'm not a history expert here, but bear with me. Turned around and told his legions that are present that, stand your ground. You're going to die, but stand your ground anyway.
Hey, guys, I've got a lovely suggestion for you. Could you all just die for me? Could you do that? Would you please? I'd be ever so grateful. Just die for me? Like in a pointless, fruitless thing? Cheers.
I hope I've got my history right there. As I say, I've come on board with Rob Jones. He's the history expert behind everything. So
yeah, I think everything in Russia was more or less just generals throwing their soldiers at each other.
Yeah.
make some kind of attempt to form some kind of wall of corpses that would keep people out of wherever they were trying to protect.
It was seen as a almost like a symbolic victory. You don't lose Stalingrad. No matter what, you can't lose. And for the Germans, of course, it's like no matter what, we must take Stalingrad. And so yeah, it just descended into absolute hell. It's a horrible part of history.
Did George R.R. Martin write The Siege of Stalingrad? Did he do that? Was it him? Oh, God. That's horrible. Oh, well, yeah, that was horrible. Yeah, because there's so many nice bits of World War II, isn't there?
Yeah, fair enough.
There's this, it's World War One where they stopped to play football for a day, right?
Yeah.
I was going to say that was the only positive story that I could think of off the top of my head.
They had a lovely kickabout on Christmas Day, and then they went right back to killing each other on Boxing Day.
Yeah, pretty much. Sounds like my Christmas.
Oh, God. Oh, jeez. I won't ask you any questions about that, dear God.
Families and Christmas.
It's the traditional Christmas story. You get up, you go for your stocking, you play a bit of football, and then you machine gun each other. What fun! What's Santa got in his sack? It's mustard gas, kids! Yay! Dear God. And then it turns out that it's a Sainsbury's advert.
Yeah, no, I don't think that one's going to be the new John Lewis for next year.
Yeah. Oh, God, because in case you don't know, Capers outside of the UK, every year, people like Sainsbury's and John Lewis, big shops like that, they do lovely, heartfelt Christmas adverts that veer from being actually really, truly delightful and heartwarming, like the cartoon with the bear and the bunny and the lovely song by Lily Allen, to actually like, what the fuck are you thinking? There's an old man on the moon spying on a little girl with a telescope. Why is he doing that? How is it? Are they related? How did he get on the moon? Why is he lurking? Stop creeping on little girls, man on the moon! Anyway... People with no context for that are going to be like completely confused.
I'm not sure anyone else.
I'm quite confused, to be honest.
Right, yeah.
From England, so.
Sorry, Matt, I didn't catch that.
I'm not certain. Everyone, you have a very interesting take on that advert.
My brain thinks weird. Okay, I think weird things about. Anyway, we were on such a fucking tangent. Where were we? Okay, so we talk about future projects, but I want to backtrack just a little bit. I want to talk about something else about Murder Most Mundane, just because I found it very, very interesting and something I don't see very often. It's sort of like the end of the comic, after the story's finished, sort of like the end credits as were, you've got a list of music tracks, like a page of music tracks. What's that about?
We wanted to do a soundtrack. We've done the same thing with the Cadavers anthology. There's 14 stories in that anthology, and I'm a big fan of James Roberts. Do you know the writer James Roberts? He writes More Than Meets the Eye and Lost Light he wrote it, literally, the book's just finished, for IDW.
No, I haven't. Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with that, no.
He posts songs on his Twitter account for each issue. So he writes an issue and he posts songs, and he will say, this is the soundtrack. These are the songs you should be listening to for this issue.
Oh.
And because of that, I thought it would be a nice idea to do that for Murder Most Mundane. Ash loves his metal, loves his rock. So
his name is Ash Deadman. I think we know what kind of music he's into.
Yeah, it's not a pseudonym, by the way, either. His name is Ash Deadman.
Oh my God. Yeah.
One more.
He did name their child a dead man.
With I'm not even sure there's any hint of irony there at all. They literally wrote with a dead man.
Wow, he's my new hero. I want to see a TV show about him.
Oh, I can imagine what he'd wear to present it as well. Maybe you can post up an accompanying photo of Ash looks very good in a bow tie.
Like in an Undertaker's uniform.
Very dapper sometimes, yes indeed. Yeah, he's a teacher normally, so yeah, he rocks the jacket and the bow tie.
So he's a teacher, did you say?
Ash is a physics teacher, isn't he? Or is it chemistry?
I was going to say, I really, really hope he's a primary school teacher, because then he's going to be like, "Good morning, class," and the class will have to repeat back, "Good morning, Mr. Dead Man."
Yeah, no, he gets that. He's not a primary school teacher, but yeah, no, I'm pretty certain they still have to do that.
I'm like, no kid is going to misbehave in that class. No kid is going to muck around and not pay attention. It's like, I don't want to get on the bad side of Mr. Deadman. There's one teacher I'm not going to screw with.
I don't think it works like that. I'm afraid.
If only, One day, maybe when we get a teacher named, I don't know, Mrs. Murderkill or something like that, maybe. But oh dear. Oh, this is a weird episode, dear God. So going back to the future stuff you've done, you're going to be doing any other future projects that we haven't talked about?
I've got a project with Russell Mark Olsen from Gateway City that I can't talk about. I started that sentence and halfway through it realised I can't talk about it.
You tease! You're teasing me!
Because the contract hasn't been signed yet, so I'm not allowed to say anything. But I'll be working with Russell Mark Olsen in the new year. I've got a project with Kieran Stevens of Broadcast Comics. It's a book called Oculus. It's a superhero book. My first ever superhero book. It's a Doctor Strange riff. So we're doing a Doctor Strange takeoff book. Jordan, you've got Frank. Frank's taking up pretty much all your time at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm pretty much going to be... We're just halfway through completing the first issue now. I've got Clark working away, drawing all kinds of creepy, weird animals. He just did a scene that's set in a shop full of like taxidermy animals all surrounding the character. So got him doing that. So I'll be reviewing all of that stuff. And yeah, that will be on Kickstarter at the end of February for the first issue. And then pretty much working on that for the rest of the year.
And now I've got the mental image of taxidermied animals in my head. Thank you for that. Reek! Rug!
We shared that image, so you can go find that one on Twitter or my Instagram if you want to see it more clearly.
Get a good idea of what you're in for, Capers. I'm sure it's going to be great. So, what, if any, comic conventions are you guys going to be going to in the future, which is spreading the word of mad robot comics?
So we're doing Portsmouth Comic Con.
Mm-hmm.
We did it last year. It was magnificent. For first time con in Portsmouth, really impressive. They had some amazing guests. I shared an elevator with Louise Simonson, and we got lost walking around the convention. She couldn't find where her panel was. I ended up talking to her about New Mutants and Power Pack and all the comics I read as a kid. And she was such a sweet lady. The lineup they had last year, guests, was amazing. We did MCM in October.
All right.
So me, Jordan, Ash, and Clark had a double table at MCM in October.
Where was that in Glasgow?
MCM London.
Oh, okay, right, because I was at the MCM Glasgow in October, so we just missed each other.
I'm told Glasgow is the MCM to do at the moment. It's a really good one. All my friends who do comics in Scotland keep on telling me to do MCM Glasgow.
Well, I had a really good time there. I really enjoyed it. Met a lot of interesting people, saw a lot of interesting comics, and saw a lot of very, very interesting cosplay. A lot of which scared me, but still, no. I mean, I haven't done another MCM. The only other big comic conventions I've done have been like London Film and Comic Con. But so I haven't done any MCMs. I've heard mixed things. I've seen mixed things, but I don't know. I don't really have anything to compare it to. I would certainly recommend you come up to Scotland because it's awesome up here.
I think London MCM is one of the best cons in the country. I mean, it is highly commercial. You have to accept that. It's always going to be. But Comic Village is just full of so many talented people. I've done London Film and Comic Con as well. I did it 4 years running. I didn't do it this year. It's improved a lot in the last couple of years, but it's still it's not really geared for the comic side of it particularly well, especially the small press comic side of it. They put us up on the balcony sometimes, and sometimes people can't find us. So, but no, MCM, Portsmouth were good ones. Meanwhile, in Chichester was one that we did last year, which we really enjoyed. I've got to mention that because Simon Burks, who runs it, is a mate. Jordan, what other cons?
Well, Thought Bubble you did last year, right?
Oh, did you, Bub? Yeah.
And I don't know if we're doing that one this year, but yeah, definitely. Because NCM London, they do too, don't they? So we're definitely looking at doing May, and we don't know if we'll do October yet.
I'd love to do May, very much so. I had a great laugh last time.
Yeah, and we'll have new books for May, so that'll be exciting. Because I guess when we did the last one, a lot of the stuff that we had, it had kind of been at a couple of the cons already. But yeah, when we do May, we'll have the first issue of Frank. We'll have the Cadavers anthology, so there'll be a lot of new stuff for people to check out.
Yeah, all new stuff.
Well, I'm glad you guys have had a good time in the past. I hope you have a good time in the future. Capers, if you're ever at one of those cons, you ever see these guys and see their work, go over, talk to them, and buy their shit!
Yeah.
That's what we scream at people.
Yeah, we'll have to get you on the stand just to be yelling that to people as they pass by.
Oi! See this! Buy it! Don't you walk away from me! I will be asked to leave if I do that. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to. I mean, if I ever, sometimes you've got panels at con. We've done that twice for PodCapers. I'm allowed to shout then because that's expected. But if I just wander around shouting at people, I will get odd looks and I will be asked to leave. Unfortunately, I tried that once. David Molosky, editor in Cape, told me not to.
Yeah, it's a Comic Con. You won't get that many odd looks if you walk around talking to yourself and shouting.
Mind you, I already walk around in red and blue 3D glasses, so I'm getting odd looks anyway.
Oh, it could be worse. You could wear a cape like David.
Actually, I don't get odd looks when I'm next to David in his cape. That's a good point. It's just the two of us strolling down. Me, normal clothes, but with the red and blue 3D glasses. Him, normal clothes, but a big red cape. It's like, if you're either in normal clothes or cosplay, people don't pay any notice. But when you're in that, just like little things, I mean, there's a little bit off, people give you weird looks. It's just like, well, who are you supposed to be then? Excuse me, we are Scott James Merridew and David Molosky. Thank you very much. Is that not enough?
I think the cape's amazing because you know who he is. You can recognise him a mile off.
It is very distinctive, his lovely velour red cloak. It's very, very good. Well, I mean, we are a place to hang your cape, so it makes sense that we have a fucking cape. It's branding. Okay. Yeah, this is why I have a podcast, so I can shout, and I don't, shout on the street. I don't do that because otherwise the police get involved and there are troubles. But anyway, moving on from my, severe public problems. As I say, Capers, I mean, I have not had a chance to read Cadavers, Last Sector Brighton, Madhouse, or any of those other things. So I can't say whether they're actually good or not, but for the sounds of it, they are very good, and I really do want to read them in the future. Murder Most Mundane, though, is excellent. It gets the PodCapers seal of approval on it. Read it. Enjoy. I have spoken.
Much appreciated, man. Cheers. Thank you.
Not a problem. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys have coming up with in the future. So Frank on the Farm, sorry, remind us when's that coming out? When do you think that'll be out?
So the first issue of Frank at Home on the Farm should be on Kickstarter towards the end of February, so next month. And yeah, then we're kind of working ahead with issues. So hopefully every couple of months you'll get a new issue till the whole 4 of the miniseries are out.
Mm-hmm. So, before we finish off, just one thing I want to ask you guys. So, you got a lot of stuff going on in the future. You're going to be busy for quite a while. What's one story in the future, without going into too many details so no one steals it, do you think you would like to do? What's one story in the future you think you'd like to do that you haven't done yet?
Matt,
well, I've got
go first. Whilst I think.
I've got a couple of. So at the moment, I'm taking a little bit of time off to edit and publish other people's books, and at the same time, I'm playing with a couple of scripts. One is a comedy about depression.
Yay!
Yeah, I think.
Well, I mean, if Rachel Smith's work is anything to go by, you can have funny scenarios involving depression. You can. It can be done.
Totally. It sounds ridiculous, but you've got to laugh at depression because I've suffered depression. A lot of people suffer depression, and it can be ridiculous. I'm afraid to say. I'm not trying to downplay it. It can be a hideous, horrible thing, but at the same time, yeah, it can be ridiculous. So
I think you can say that about any sort of horrible thing. Like, people often get quite upset when you make fun of something that's horrible. It's like, well, how could you do that? Why would you make fun of something like that? And there's 2 reasons. One, the foundation of comedy is, what is it, guys? Audience participation is required.
I don't know the answer to that question. Tragedy?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Tragedy. Okay.
Tragedy. The foundation of comedy is tragedy, is misery, is suffering. In order for any joke to have to work, someone or something has to suffer. It doesn't matter whether it's a knock-knock joke or a stand-up set or something, there has to be tragedy involved.
It's the human condition, yes. The suffering, yes. Yeah, exactly.
That's what makes it funny, and that's one reason why we do it. The other reason is when you make fun of something horrible like depression, it makes you just a little bit stronger than it. It means that you gain a bit of power of it. It doesn't diminish it. It just means that despite its horribleness, you can still make fun of it. You can still make jokes about it, and it's like armor a little bit. It just means you can sort of rise above it and just continue on. It doesn't mean that it's gone or it's irrelevant or that all your problems are solved or anything. It just means that you are just a little bit stronger than the problem. And I think people need that. I think people need to make fun of the things that get them down or things that suffer and the things that is wrong with the world, because otherwise we will just be dragged down by these horrible things, and that's when the problems really don't get solved. And some problems can't be solved, obviously, but in that case, make a little joke about it and you might find, best case scenario, even if the problem isn't solved, you might feel a bit better, and that can make all the difference in the world, I think.
Well said. I mean, humour is just a tool. It's just a tool to tell a story. It's just a way to approach a particular subject. We're not going to make light of the subject. Yeah, it will be a humorous look at depression. But anyway, that's for quite a way down the line.
Absolutely. Well, I look forward to it with bated breath. And on that note, I think we're going to end the show. Thank you very much, guys, for joining me today.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Scott. Really nice to speak to you.
Thank you for your time, Scott.
Not a problem. And if you enjoy the show, Capers, please tell your friends, shout it from the rooftops! And now, everybody, go back and listen to some of our other super episodes, like a couple of episode before where we talked with Ben Aronovich about murder and all sorts of stuff. Dear God, we've been dark these past couple of episodes. And you can listen to the show on iTunes, Podbean, YouTube, Spotify, or at PodCapers.com. We have a Patreon. Check out the rewards. Patreon.com/AP2HYC. If you want to get in touch with us, suggest show topics, or maybe come on the show yourself, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at AP2HYC, or email us at podcapers@AP2HYC.com. Thank you very much to Dan Harris for our logo, the lovely microphone with the red and blue 3D glasses, those are mine, and thank you for listening. This has been PodCapers, the official podcast of a place to hang your cape. Cue the music!
I listened to the one you did with Lyndon. Oh, crap, I didn't mention Lyndon.
Well, that's gonna go in the post-credits.